welcome to the Album Man, and today I'm going to be doing a review of Jimi Hendrix, People, Hell and Angels. So, as I'm sure most of you know, Jimi Hendrix has been dead since 1971, I think it was he died. So obviously this is a posthumous effort, and it was produced by Eddie Kramer, the person who engineered Hendrix's stuff when he was, alive. And this is, meant to be a collection of unreleased material, sort of made into a, a studio album, effectively. And stuff, people haven't heard before. And he's also said that this will be the last posthumous studio release from the Hendrix estate. But there's plenty of live stuff they'll release, surely. But the question is, does this show a new side to Hendrix, or does it seem all too familiar? So this album, it starts off with the track F Blues. And as suggested by the name, it's a pretty bluesy song, though it definitely has a little bit of funk thrown in there, combined with the jive talking vocals of the man himself. And they, sort of crescend nicely to a catchy chorus, which is probably the catchiest chorus on the album, especially as it has some really nice high harmonies from Miles and Cox. And yeah, it really is a superb Hendrix song, to be honest. The guitar playing is obviously brilliant. However, the song may be good, but I do have some qualms. I mean, the fact of the matter is this song isn't exactly new. It's pretty damn old. We've had a version on 1971's Rainbow Bridges, which in my opinion at least is the superior version. I mean, it feels like the song he released, it feels more like the songs he released when he was alive in terms of production. It just feels more complete. This version, yeah, it may be a good song, but it's certainly rough around the edges and feels like it was recorded by the band just jamming in the studio, so it has a looser feel to it. It isn't as polished as the 71 version. Though I still think I suppose it's kind of interesting, but really, it really is an inferior version, to be honest. Then Somewhere, which is also known as Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and this was released on the controversial 75 album Crash Landing. And this is controversial as it was produced by Alan Douglas, and he actually brought some musicians in to overdub stuff and help finish the song. Musicians Jimmy had never even met in his life. Now, there was a version that's also released in the 2000 Jimi Hendrix Experience box set, which actually took away the overdubs. And I can't say I've heard that version particularly, but, it sounds good. And yeah, this song, it has some, good guitar intro featuring some nice wah-wah laden guitar before the smooth voice of Hendrix rolls in. And it has that trademark sound and funky chords, very Hendrix, and has a nice vibe to it. I mean, again, it's not Hendrix's fault, but it sounds a little too raw, not as refined as his proper studio efforts, and that does detract from it a bit. And the highlight on the song is the pretty immensely epic solo it has, and if it's an instrumental I wouldn't have minded, to be honest. I mean, the problem is, again, it's nothing new. This is really just an alternative take of a track we've already had. And again, I would say, well, I haven't heard it, but I don't know, by what I've heard, this is an inferior version. I cannot verify that myself, as I've not heard the 2000 version. But it wouldn't surprise me the way this album goes, and we'll get into that. Well, especially with this song, Hear My Train A Bloody Comin'. Now this song, I love it. I love the song, let's get that straight. But it was being released a lot of times. From the live versions, including the one released in Woodstock, to the studio versions on Crash Landing, no, that doesn't really count, and the 2000 box set, and his last posthumous album, Valleys of Neptune. We only had a version of this song on his last, studio album, and now we're getting another one. We just don't bloody need one. Especially this release is definitely inferior to the one on the last album. The guitar version in the other version is a lot more pristine, has a cleaner quality to it, and the production is just overall better. I mean, as well as the fact that the other version is a good 2 minutes longer and contains far better vocals than the version we look at now, which is unnecessary and should have been a bonus track, if anything, not the third track on the album. Again, 3 songs we've had before in pretty much original versions, and we're getting again. I just don't know why. Bleeding Heart. This is the wonderful Elmore James cover by Hendrix. And again, this just pissed me off, to be honest, because this version, it appears on Valleys of Neptune again. In fact, it was released as a single on Valleys of Neptune, and yet they're releasing it again. And that version is vastly superior to this version, to be honest. This version is pretty much a demo, while the Valley one is a full-blown epic rendition of this song. It has 2.5 minutes of extra music, and is truly epic in comparison to the crappy version we have. I mean, okay, this version, it's alright, but it's just blown away by the other in every possible way. Just not needed. Then we get to Let Me Move You, and yes, it's actually a new song, which is kind of cool. So this has not been released before, but it's not that Hendrixy, really. It features the saxophonist Lonnie Youngblood trading licks with Hendrix throughout this fairly soulful song, and it also features Lonnie on vocals, which gives Hendrix some breathing room to just sit back and play guitar, and boy, he does on this. It's quite a high-octane rock jam. It's a really good song. Took a while, but it really has grown on me, with a great chorus, and Lonnie's voice is actually superb on it. Hendrix's guitar is simply awe-inspiring, and Lonnie's sax, it just fits really well. It's a really nice jam, and the first truly necessary and good song, I would say, on the album. I definitely like it. It's an awesome song. Isabella. This song was, obviously, it was debuted at Woodstock originally, and it's certainly not new. Now, I'm going to sound like a broken, bloody record player, but it appears on First Raise, and guess which version's better? The one on First Raise, of course. And this song in general, has sort of a cool, funky beat to it from Cox, and it's definitely different from the version on First Raise, but not by a dramatic enough amount to warrant a purchase. I think the version on First Raise has a sort of a simplism to it, and even though the version presented here is actually longer doesn't always mean better, and the previous version is better. It's a more vocal-centric style that's presented to us there, and just feels more like a complete Hendrix song, as opposed to this, which feels like a studio session practice or something. And to be honest, by what I've heard, quite a few of these songs really were no more than session practices. Easy Blues. Now this is a truly unreleased track as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, and I can tell why, to be quite blunt. Now, I do love Hendrix. I think he's one of the greatest guitarists of all time. It doesn't necessarily mean everything he touched turned to gold. This song's about 6 minutes long, and yeah, it feels long. It meanders around, achieving not much. With its unstructured spell of the moment solos, it's an okay jam, but really, it's nothing that special from the vault. It doesn't have a particular tune or melody, and I think Hendrix's best solos were the ones that he clearly wrote more. I don't mean wrote as in, wrote them down musically, he couldn't read music. But wrote as in, took time thinking about them and exactly what he wanted to create from them. And this, it just feels too all over the place and too much like, well, just them jamming in the studio for the sheer heck of it. That's, exactly, it's what it is. It's pleasant, it's Hendrix, it's nothing special. Crash Landing has only ever been released on the album of the same name, but we don't count that. So I consider this one of the first proper versions, I suppose, we've had, so that brings us to 3 sort of new songs. And, the song, it has a really strong groove to it, and lovely opening guitar melody before Hendrix's voice comes in. And I can't say I think much of his voice on that song. To me, it just feels a little off in places, even though out of time, almost like they took another take or something. I'm not 100% sure, though. But, yeah, it just doesn't, I don't know, I don't like it in this song particularly. It's decent as a song, it's certainly, something that's, well, it's something I like, I suppose, and pleased it was released, but it's no hidden gem. It's a B-side sounding song, and the solo just feels, I don't know, a little too safe to me. Though the major positive is that its lyrical content. It's a rarely very personal song from Hendrix as he's pleasing his girlfriend to kick a drug habit. Though, as I've said, all of these, it just sounds a little too rough, a little too like a demo. Then we get to Inside Out. This is another bloody early version of Easy Rider, and another instrumental version, in fact. This is a jam instrumental, and the bass on it was actually overdubbed by Hendrix himself. It has a nice driving riff to it that's catchy and, yeah, quite memorable, but works better on Easy Rider. And I can't help but feel that really this song was just a demo. I mean, yeah. That's what it feels like. It's an okay instrumental, it's not awful, but it's nothing special. It's extremely average or mediocre, and doesn't really capture you particularly. I mean, it didn't really need releasing. We've had quite a few versions of, early versions of Easy Rider. We did not need another. Then Hey Gypsy Boy, and this is really just an early version of Hey Baby New Rising Sun. And again, it's just a demo with some alternate lyrics. Hey Baby is definitely the more realised, superior song, and I find that Gypsy Boy just meanders too much and lacks the sense of direction that he focused into Hey Baby. It's an interesting look, I suppose, at the progression of Hey Baby, but it's not the most satisfying of tracks on its own. And then Mojo Man, I don't like this track. It's a song by the Ghetto Fighters, who are Arthur and Albert Allen. It's an R&B song at heart, so... And basically Hendrix was actually friends with these guys, and they gave him the song to overdub some guitar onto it, and it just feels a little awkwardly overdubbed, to be honest. It doesn't quite flow with the song, and it really is quite a fairly average R&B song with some, you know, decent guitar. But this song was also released, I think it was released, as a Ghetto Fighter single, so really not too long ago. I could swear it was re-released like a year ago, I read, or something like that. But this is definitely not a new song. It has definitely been available to us before, and just didn't need releasing, to be honest. Well, certainly, you know, this could be a slightly different take from Hendrix, and I can call it unreleased, but really, we've had this before. Lastly is Villanova Junction Blues, and this had a this had a 5-minute version on the Burning Desire album, and here we just get a 1:45 taste of the song. To be honest, they should have included the full version if they were going to. It's just disappointing. Yeah, I suppose it's a nice outro, but really, we needed the full version. And we just got this crappy little taster of it. As you can tell, I'm not really that happy with this album. I mean, my cynicism has clearly been rampant. I do love Hendrix, but what I don't love is corporate bullshit. What I don't love is Jimi Hendrix, and what I don't love at the moment, it seems, is Eddie Kramer. They are making just money off any old shit they can find in the vaults of Hendrix. You know, okay, technically this is unreleased material, but come on, they are making the definition of unreleased extremely liberal here. Well, not extremely liberal, but, it really, I couldn't count this as unreleased. We've had many versions of this, songs before. There's even superior versions on, like, albums like Valleys of Neptune, which, was released in 2011? We don't need another version of Bleeding Heart. There's nothing canonical on this album. It's not essential. It's a cash grab by the Hendrix estate, and I don't recommend buying it. I found it hard to score though, because some of the songs, I mean, you know, they are decent. I like the version of Earth Blues, even though it's not the superior version, it's massively inferior. But, you know, some of the songs, it is decent, I suppose. Okay, if you listen to it just as an album. But really, if you're a Hendrix fan, you have all these other versions, and you don't need it. I genuinely recommend buy this secondhand. Do not support the Hendrix estate with buying this album. I do not agree with it. I do not think, like many reviewers have said, this is an essential Hendrix. This is not an essential Hendrix album. The essential Hendrix albums are, obviously, Are You Experienced, Bold as Love, Electric Ladyland, Woodstock, and even, the First Rays album. I'd say that's, sort of essential, where they try and recreate what would have been his 4th album. This is just outtakes, rough mixes, and a cash grab. But then again, it's alright. I'm going to give this album really it does have some decent songs on it, and I suppose it does have a few new tracks. So I'm going to try not to be too harsh. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 10. That's a lot lower than its Metacritic of, 78? But I just feel that it's called bullshit. Buy it secondhand, or listen to it on YouTube. Don't listen to it on Spotify, because you're giving Hendrix Estate money. I'm sorry, I'm just against this album. I do not believe Hendrix would have been proud of it. I believe he would have been disgraced by this release. This has been the Album Man. Thank you very much for watching. Can't wait to subscribe, and as usual, long live rock and roll.